I've done that every day this week. Good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We're broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio this morning. We've got a lot coming up on the program. We have some New York State issues, some federal issues. We're going to talk with Doug Harrington. He's the director of Cabaret, which will be playing in Owego, February 2nd through the 18th. You'll find out all about that coming up in just a little bit. I also want to, and I'll try to remind you again before the program is over, remind you that the Rotary Club of Corning is holding their Groundhog Day Pancake Supper today from 4 to 7 at the American Legion here in Corning. We talked with Buddy Cutler and Stu Samus, last week. And I just wanted to remind you, in case you forgot to mark your calendar, it is the first day of February. Welcome to February, and welcome to Frankly Speaking. Let's get right to it. Did you see, thank you for the virtual wave. If you're new to the program, you can always reach out and comment at that number on the bottom of your screen. I would love to hear from you. Did you see that the governor has admitted that the cannabis rollout was a, quote, disaster? Okay. Stating the obvious. She clearly did not blame herself for that role in it being a disaster. It was, as the city.ny put it, it was a stunning remark. As Hochul called the rollout of New York's cannabis program a disaster and said it was unlikely the program could be fixed without significant changes to the state's cannabis legalization law itself. And I know we've talked about this a lot. It's really about enforcement. What did we learn the other day? There's only really 14 people or something like that enforcing these laws, and we have so many in our area that have popped up, the illegal sticker stores, if you will. It's not every street corner, said the governor. It's every other storefront. It is insane. Now, if you recall, she canceled a meeting, or she had a hand in canceling that last-minute meeting of the Cannabis Control Board. It was it wasn't a last-minute meeting. It was canceled last minute, I should say. She said, I'm very fed up with how long it's taken to get some of these approvals. My understanding is that the board was supposed to consider 400 applicants. They only had 3 new retail locations approved, and that is, of course, of legal sales. My team got involved and said, no, go back to the drawing board, work harder, get this done. And no, I'm not satisfied with the pace. Now, you'll probably just see more money thrown at it and more bureaucracy with the Office of Cannabis Management. But Hochul blames some of the problems in the rollout with the law itself, including a lack of enforcement mechanisms to curb illegal stores while not offering fast enough paths to legal sales. Yes, and we've even talked, if you recall, with Sheriff Allard a couple weeks ago, where he said, he's called the Office of Cannabis Management and said, just put me in, coach. I'd be more than happy to help and show you where these locations are. She said, you have to go back to the very beginning. Prior to my time as governor, interesting how that happened, the legislation was crafted in a way that was not poised for success. Now, we don't have to go through any more of this. I think it's pretty clear we know it was a disaster. Many of you have had to deal with the rollouts in various ways, maybe locations that you found appalling or seeing them in your neighborhood. But according to Hochul, it's not going to get any better. So just buckle in. You like to hear that vote of confidence from your governor. How about this? How appropriate is this from a viewer? A viewer says Hochul is a disaster. Cutting funding in the budget for Southern Tier schools, yes, and we've talked about that with Assemblyman Phil Palmisano, and possibly closing another 5 prisons in New York. I'm so glad you brought that up, because speaking of Assemblyman Phil Palmisano, who's going to be on the program, by the way, tomorrow, so we'll get your questions in if you have any questions for the Assemblyman. He and his colleagues, and I'm going to try, I hope I'm not pronouncing their names wrong, Assemblyman Chris Taug, Assemblyman Joe Giglio, and others, family members of corrections officers and members of the Assembly Republican Conference, they blasted Hochul over the prison closure plan. Hochul's plan to close up to 5 prisons and do so with just a 90-day notification. You imagine that? As the Assemblyman said, a 1-year closure notification is damaging enough to employees, their families, and impacted local communities. But allowing a prison closure with just a 90-day notification is a tremendous insult to those dedicated corrections officers and staff who work at a very dangerous job to keep us safe. The legislature has the ability to reject this ridiculous 90-day notification proposal, and we absolutely should reject it. And also think about how we've heard of the needs for corrections officers in general. Imagine what this does for morale. Now, this was quite a lengthy quote, and we'll talk with the Assemblyman about it more in depth tomorrow. But he said, quite frankly, we should not be closing any additional correctional facilities, especially with only an insulting 90-day notification. You should repeal the failed and dangerous HALT Act. This administration must finally take significant action to address the violence crisis and rising assaults happening inside our prisons today. We should address the staffing crisis by aggressively increasing the pay and benefits for our corrections officers and staff. We should provide, sign-on bonuses to help recruit new officers and implement other longevity bonuses and benefits to help retain these dedicated employees who have worked a very dangerous job for so many years to keep us safe. We need to provide our corrections officers with important tools and resources, such as body scanners and drug dogs at every correctional facility, to help keep the drugs and contrabands out of our prison, which has contributed to the rising violence and assaults. And finally, it is long past due for this administration and state to treat our corrections officers and civilian staff as the professionals they are and with the respect they deserve and have certainly earned. That is Assemblyman Phil Palmisano, so I appreciate him sending that in, and we will be talking with him tomorrow, and very appropriate with a comment from that viewer. So thank you. We've got a couple other things as an update from yesterday's program that we'll be talking about when it is in regards to New York, more so the city, but painting a larger picture of what we're dealing with as a state. We also have, as I mentioned, Doug Harrington, the director of Cabaret and Owego, coming up in just a little bit. As always, if there's a guest that you would like, I received this request for this interview from an old friend that I used to work with, and so the same goes with you. You're an old friend if you've been with this program for a while. So if you have anybody you'd like to see on the program, we can't always make it work out, but we would love to try. Maybe it's your mayor, maybe it's your council member, maybe it's a charitable organization you're involved in. Just text it to that number, and I will get a hold of you, or you can leave a voicemail if that's easier, if you think there's more detail to be provided. Okay, I'm running extremely late, so stay with us. We are already hitting the ground running, so stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Isn't your wellness important? Don't you want more energy? Now's the best time to make every day better and relieve those achy muscles and pains than with the Hesselson's Hot Tub. Hesselson's has hot tubs in stock and available for immediate delivery with unbelievable savings. Hesselson's offers 0% interest-free financing for up to 5 full years. Hesselson's carries the only hot tub brand in the industry with the exclusive freshwater salt system that is eco-friendly and easy to use and only enhances your hot tubbing experience. Come in today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselson's hot tub. And remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
If you or one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer.
How do I know if I have a case?
Call 844-292-6222 and consult with one of our attorneys to find out if the products you used are part of the lawsuit. Your eligibility will also depend on how often you use these hair products and your specific cancer diagnosis. If you regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. Call 844-292-6222.
How much will it cost to talk to an attorney?
There is no fee unless we win your case. Call 844-292-6222 for your free case review.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking. I want to get right to it because we have to take another short break to play catch up, and then we're going to hear from Doug Harrington. But we won't be able to dive into this too much, but did you see that Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg was before Congress to talk about the impact of social media on young people? He wanted to sound sincere, says the New York Post editorial board, when he stood up and apologized to a crowd of parents whose kids died after experiencing sexual extortion or harassment online. But his words were empty when you consider how little he did to fight the bullying, pornography, harassment, and filth peddling by Facebook and Instagram, and the damage that it's done for generations of children. or how Zuckerberg in 2021 emails refused to expand the company's child safety and well-being workforce. So the crux of this article by the Post editorial board is social media CEOs won't stop their products from harming kids until they're forced to. And they wrap it up and they give a lot of details and a lot of explanations. But they said Big Tobacco played dumb over the impact of its products for decades. How are TikTok and Meta any better? Actually, they're worse. They deliver their dopamine rushes for free. We're not often fans of government regulations, but social media giants have shown again and again that they can't be trusted. They'll choose the path of the most profit, no matter how or no matter the impact on mental health or society. A hearing is not enough. Congress and the administration needs to get serious about actual penalties for bad behavior. Start by removing the legal protections they get, where they can pretend they are not responsible for what appears on their platforms, and then serious enforcement with serious penalties for violations. Sorry is not enough. And I know we've talked about the harmful impact social media has had in general, but especially on young people. So I wanted to highlight that before we take this break. When we come back, Doug Harrington talking about Cabaret and Owego. And then after that, a little bit more, like I said, about New York and Governor Hochul and her response to the story I brought to you yesterday of the migrants, a mob of migrants that pounded cops. The video is disturbing. We'll talk a little bit about that and then get into the national scene. But as always, you can comment. You see the number on the bottom of your screen if there's anything you'd like to address. We'll be right back. We're Frankly Speaking. Stay with us.
Was your premature baby fed a cow's milk baby formula such as Similac or Enfamil? If so, your child may be entitled to significant financial compensation. Evidence shows that cow's milk formulas increase the risk of NEC in premature babies, causing severe harm and even death. If your child was born premature and suffers from NEC, intestinal perforations, sepsis, cerebral palsy, or died as a result, you may have the right to sue for significant financial compensation. Call now for a free case review.
If you're 65 or older or have an underlying health condition, you may be at higher risk for severe illness, hospitalization, and even death from COVID-19. Know your risk and make sure you're up to date on your COVID vaccines.
They are some of the hottest videos on social media. Those videos claiming to instantly get rid of bags under your eyes. Annette Figueroa is here to tell us why she says this one is for real.
This one is for real, and I'm so excited. Not only does it work on the bags, it works on the appearance of crow's feet, fine lines, and wrinkles. We even have a video, and all he uses is a small amount, and that's how easy it is. And I did this to my father. We were at home, 4 minutes, 34 seconds, completely gone.
My real true opinion is holy words I can't say on camera. This is absolutely unbelievable. I mean, I could feel it just lifting my skin. It was amazing. It feels good. Feels great. Looks even better.
At our $14.95 price, it's the best way to try Plexiderm and see it work for yourself after your first application. Your solution is at plexidermtrial.com or call the number on your screen.
Name a food you might make your edible underwear out of.
Salmon.
Wild caught Norwegian teriyaki.
Sharing the fun. Weeknights on Family Feud.
7 and 7:30 on Big Fox.
Shell Missy face off in.
Why can't we watch DuckTales? Because we don't learn anything.
Book Smarts versus Street Smarts.
Is it working? Are you feeling motivated? Very.
It's the battle of twins.
Life is so confusing. I always hoped it would be easier for me when I grew up. It's gonna be all right. You were faking. Bazinga.
Young Sheldon.
Weeknights at 6:30 on.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom, and we're broadcasting from the Hesselson studio. And joining me on Zoom this morning, we have Doug, the director of Cabaret. Doug, thanks so much for being on the program.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
So tell us why you decided Cabaret.
Yeah, Cabaret is such a classic piece of theater. It's been around since the 60s.
Yeah.
And it's gone through many, many different retellings. Different variations of the show have been produced on Broadway, regionally, and even at Tioga previously. So it hasn't been done in a few years in Tioga. It's a classic show that a lot of people recognize in terms of name and also song value. So we felt like it was an appropriate time to kind of bring it back into the fold, to really bring that candor, that true candor and ebb piece back to the Tioga stage, which has been really great to work with, the source material and everything like that. With TCP, and it's just one of those fantastic shows that we were very excited to work on.
And I think it's very interesting because it is kind of synonymous with a stage production. Everybody knows the story of Cabaret, and you mentioned the musical aspect to it. It's impressive that you have a 12-piece orchestra for this show.
We do, yes. We've been very lucky that we've been able to find some great musicians to come and play in our orchestra, under the direction of our music director, Jeff Wall. He was able to source those musicians within 2 weeks of me bringing him on as the music director, which was fantastic. We actually just had our full orchestra, the full sound of it, for the first time last night, so it sounds amazing. And you don't really see that big of an orchestra too often in the local area, so we've been very lucky that we've been able to have that for this production.
Now, I ask this whenever I have somebody on that's performing in a play or a musical. How much time and commitment is involved for you, either as a director or for the cast?
Absolutely. So time commitment, of course, will vary for the show, but for me personally, as the director, I actually signed on to the project in November of 2022.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, yeah, it actually has been over a year for me.
Yeah.
Which has been great for me because it's really allowed me to dive into the material and come up with some different ideas for the show, because, again, going off of the fact that this is produced quite often, it is, of course, a little difficult to find new ways to do it, right?
Of course.
So having that timeline, that lead time, has really allowed me to dive into the material and try to come up with different ways that I haven't seen done before, because I have seen productions of Cabaret. I was in a production of Cabaret in college myself. So just trying to do it a little differently. So I've been working on it for over a year. During the actual rehearsal process, we've been actually working on it for about 2 months, since early December, 3 to 4 times a week. So cast is called in the evenings, typically for about 3 hours, about 3 to 4 times a week. And of course, our other production team members, like Nicole Pertel, who's our choreographer, Jeff, myself, our Laura Kensley, who's our lighting and sound director, our designer. We've all been meeting together to create this really great piece of theater outside of rehearsal as well. So also Russell Althouse, who's our stage manager, and Ben Coddington, who's our associate pit conductor, and everything like that. So it really does take quite a village to put something on like this.
It does. I think a lot of people, maybe who have never been in a play or just go to a play occasionally, don't realize how much work there is behind the scenes, more so than probably on the stage, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I mean, we have, just to give you a frame of mind in terms of how many people have helped with this show, we have about 16 cast members, ranging from folks who have never done a show at Tioga before to folks who have done several, including we have Ryan Canavan, Andrew Mexdorf, Alana Wallenstein, Shirley Goodman, Tony Valleco, Deirdre Nolis, Amanda Blake, and an amazing ensemble consisting of amazing folks like Carrie Kane, Helen Ludovec, Sammy Watts, of course, amazing other people that, it's great to name off.
You fall into a trap when you start to name everybody.
I know, right? I always want to try to get as many people out there, right?
Yeah, of course.
So we have a cast of 16. We have a production team of probably about 8 or so when it's all said and done, 8 to 10. And then, we're going to have volunteers. We have the 12-piece orchestra. So you're talking about probably, for any given production, like any given show, probably about 30 to 40 people working on it at any given moment.
So you hope at least 3 each bring 3 family members, and you guys are pretty much set every night, right?
Right? Yeah, that always helps.
Have you always been interested in directing?
I have been. I have directed before in college.
Okay.
I directed 2 shows. I directed Stephen Sondheim's Company and Stephen Schwartz's Godspell in my senior year of college, which was a really great experience to kind of open my eyes to directing. And so that was back in my senior year. So that was in fall of 2015 and the spring of 2016. So it's been 8 years since I last directed a show. So kind of got that bug again to kind of get behind and kind of bring ideas to the stage, because I think it's really fulfilling artistically to have an idea and be able to execute it on stage is really an amazing feeling.
Now, how long have you been with the Tioga Community Players?
Yeah, so I've actually not been with TCP for very long. I actually only have one other TCP credit. Okay. I produced the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee last year.
I saw that on the list.
June production. Yep. Yeah. So I was the producer on that. I have not performed yet with them. I also do perform. So, but Tioga has been great, allowing me to come in and really kind of take the helm of this show.
That's right.
And bring my vision to the stage, which has been nice.
And before we go, what should people know about cabaret? We mentioned that most people are probably aware of it, but I'm sure there are people that aren't aware of it as well. And also because we're based out of Corning and Chemung and Elmira, this isn't Owego. What should they know? Kind of the who, what, when, where, and why of cabaret.
Absolutely. So cabaret, like you said, it's a very classic show that takes place in the late 1920s and the early 1930s in Berlin, Germany, where we do follow a writer whose name is Cliff Bradshaw. Okay. And he ends up in Berlin and through a series of events ends up at this club called the Kit Kat Club, where he meets Sally Bowles, who is kind of the lead of the club. And we've kind of followed their love story as well as some other stories as well. We have Fraulein Schneider and Herr Schultz, who live in the apartment complex that Cliff moves into. And we follow their love story. We follow some other stories as well. But the whole kind of theme is that we are following these people's stories throughout, the late 1920s, early 1930s in Berlin, Germany, through the rise of fascism and everything like that with Nazi Germany and everything like that. So we follow these stories throughout Act 1 into Act 2, and it kind of acts as a distraction to what is happening around us.
Oh, interesting.
And I think we really do it very poignantly, especially with the way that we have our finale blocked and everything, and we understand the source material and everything that went behind it. So I think we're doing the piece pretty good justice. And then you also have the MC character, who is kind of the puppet master of what is happening throughout any given moment.
And what should people know? It's coming up February 2nd through the 18th. What should they know about, days, times, tickets, those type of things?
Absolutely. So we are doing it every weekend, the first 3 weekends of February. The shows are Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Friday and Saturday shows are at 8 p.m.
Okay.
And the Sunday shows are at 2 p.m. You can go right to tioga.com to purchase any of your tickets. Tickets do range from $25 to $30 each. So next 3 weekends, there are 9 total shows, and we would certainly love to see as many people as we possibly can come see this amazing production that a lot of people have worked really hard to put on.
And just before we go, people all of a sudden have the acting bug after seeing this. How can they get involved with the Tioga Community Players in the future?
Absolutely. So Tioga is always looking for new folks, whether it be acting or on the production side or even volunteering. So you can always go to our website. You can always email info@tioga.com. If you're even interested in volunteering for cabaret, we're always looking for folks for in the kitchen, ushers, greeters, whatever it might be. Okay. You can always reach out to us via the Tioga email, or you can reach out to our house manager, Christy Wall, as well, because we'd certainly always love as many volunteers as possible. So definitely come on out. We do have auditions, or we just had auditions for Elephant Man, which is the show that is right after Cabaret.
Oh, okay.
But then the show after that is Sunday in the Park with George, which I will be auditioning for myself. So if you're interested in joining me and potentially in a production, come through. And always looking for more people to get involved with Tioga.
Well, it sounds like it's going to be a fun time. So whatever it is you're supposed to say, because I know there's all the rules and when in acting that I can't say certain things, but I'm sure it's going to be a fun time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Stay with us.
Wow, you found it.
I did.
The History of Water Part 6? I've been dying to read this.
I know, honey.
I always wanted that book.
At Culligan, we get that most people don't think about water like we do, and that's okay.
You see, when we install one of our high-efficiency water softeners, we're thinking about hard water and limescale buildup, so you can just think about longer-lasting appliances and softer skin and hair. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
Attention, this is an important message for firefighters, members of the military, and airport workers. For decades, first responders and firefighters at military bases and airports used a chemical-based foam to fight fires. Studies have shown that chemicals used to make aqueous film-forming foam, or AFFF, are highly toxic to humans and have been associated with several types of cancer. If you or someone you know was diagnosed with any of those cancers, call now for a free case review.
You need a fan, but they're bulky, awkward, and never put the breeze exactly where you want it. Introducing my fold-away fan from Bell & Howell, the compact cordless fan that unfolds into your own personal wind machine and extends to nearly 4 feet high. Its lightweight, portable design makes it easier than ever to have a targeted breeze anywhere. Plus, this whisper-quiet fan has 3 separate speeds, making personalizing your comfort a breeze. My fold-away fan's rechargeable lithium battery lasts up to 10 hours, and it has enough power to blast a breeze to the other side of this room. Its unique telescoping stand allows you to place it on the floor, so the breeze will reach anywhere with ease. Then the whole thing folds away for easy storage. Get my fold-away fan from Bell & Howell for just 2 payments of $19.99. It comes with the USB cable to make charging fast and easy. My fold-away fan. Call or click now.
Call 1-800-349-4156. That's 1-800-349-4156 or go to myfoldawayfan.com.
Start with a bang. Invite a bunch of friends, then fill the infield like a rock concert. Mix in some superstar power and turn them loose. A 500-mile all-out fight for NASCAR's biggest prize. That's the Great American Race. The Daytona 500, February 18th. And don't miss the Clash, February.
Our beautiful view of Market Street as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Receive this message from a viewer. As always, you can reach out at that number on the bottom of your screen. We're talking about the potential closure of 5 prisons and within a 90-day window. And better add that. Let me start from the beginning. Good morning, Frank. Good morning. I just got to thinking, as you were addressing the closure of the 5 prisons in only a 90-day window. Yes, it affects the corrections officers, but they don't seem to address the impact on the communities where these prisons are located. The good thing would be the mass exodus of those individuals who move into those communities to be closer to their loved ones for their conjugal visits, but they bring higher crime rates and higher usage of social services. It does have the negative impact on sales revenue and quality housing usage. Thank you. Keep those comments coming in this morning. So speaking of Governor Hochul, as you recall, yesterday I brought up the story about the mob of migrants that attacked police officers, and it was all caught on camera. Well, as she was speaking to reporters, as she announced the nomination of Stephen G. James as New York State Police Superintendent, she was asked about the shocking, as they put here in the New York Post, beatdown, and whether the asylum-seeking suspects should be deported. She said, I think that's actually something that should be looked at. I mean, if someone commits a crime against a police officer in the state of New York and they're not here legally, it is definitely worth checking into. Isn't that interesting, though, when you think the different thresholds? Because they were let free with no bail after this attack. These are law enforcement officers who should never, under any circumstances, be subjected to physical harm or physical assault. It's wrong on all accounts, and I'm looking to judges and prosecutors to do the right thing, Hochul said. Now, Staten Island Representative Nicole Malatakis said the law that's prohibiting cooperation between NYPD and federal immigration enforcement, it just has to stop, and that is the case here in New York State. Republicans, independents, Democrats should at least be able to agree that if you're in this city and you're committing a crime, you have given up any opportunity to ever become a part of its citizenry. That's a tough one. Period. This is the fruit of the poisonous tree. This is Staten Island Bureau President Vito Fasella. We warned more than a year ago about letting all these migrants in. Now we're getting the worst of the worst. I don't see any reason why we shouldn't deport these individuals immediately for assaulting our police officers. We shouldn't spend one more penny on them. Now they have a license to attack our police officers. Is this a world that we've created? Yeah, I mean, it is, and you add bail reform on there as well, and that's why we mentioned it on the program yesterday. Not so much because it's a New York City issue, obviously the migrant issue, but that we're seeing throughout the state, but also the fact that because of these laws and because of the sanctuary laws and because of the bail reform, it's creating a perfect storm. Bob McManus at the New York Post said, it's bash a cop week in New York while politicians let the punks loose so the public pays the price. A gaggle of New York's newest made that clear over the weekend. The so-called asylum seekers, all from Venezuela, battered 2 cops in Times Square. 4 were arrested, processed, and cut loose without bail. A 5th was in custody Wednesday afternoon, and police said 3 more were in the wind. It's shocking, and this is a sad point, from McManus, but it's the new normal. Yes, he says, punks have been punching police officers since forever, and politicians naturally pander. Wow, that's a lot of P's in that sentence. Yes, punks have been punching police officers since forever, and politicians naturally pander. What's new is that today's politicians are pandering to the punks. And while the public pays the price, blame it on the progressive politics and expect more of the same. They all need to be deported promptly. But that's a notorious process. So doubtless the attacks will go down as just another insult to the notion of an ordered society. You can find that full piece. Now I'm going to be thinking about the popping of the piece by Bob McManus at the New York Post. We received this comment from a viewer. Automatic deportation for any illegal immigrant breaking laws in New York. No questions asked. I think you'll see some tough talk, if I'm going to be honest, from politicians. I don't believe much will be done. This is a shocking case, and you see a lot of people outraged over it, and rightfully so. But I do have my doubts that anything. I mean, look, Hochul already suggested that it's on somebody else's responsibility. Now, the Post editorial board does have a good point that the way the law is set up, these migrants are on parole, so it's time to send them packing. The city's migrant crisis just went from maddening to completely insane as illegal migrants who beat cops in the middle of Times Square were let go with no bail. I mean, I think that's something we can't understate, and that's why I brought it up on the program yesterday. And then returned to their taxpayer-funded shelter rooms. President Biden's policies granted them humanitarian parole to pursue their asylum claims, but they've plainly violated that parole. Yet none is locked up at Rikers, let alone in ICE custody for deportation proceedings. Blame New York's lax laws and lame prosecutors for the first, and our sanctuary cities for the second. Oh, and blame Biden for them being here at all. U.S. law in no way grants entry to asylum seekers who cross another safe nation on their way here and can't prove they saw asylum there. Of course, New York lefties would surely rally to block any effort to hand them over. Biden's border policies are sheer madness, but New York's own policies on migrants and crime are a civic suicide pact all their own. And even when Biden's policies go away, the local political class that's given us that pact will probably look for some way to restore, quote, social justice by importing more asylum seekers anyway. So that's from the New York Post editorial board. Just as an update, one last update from yesterday's program as well. New York is the first state in the nation to make it easier for asylum seekers with work authorization to obtain government jobs. Governor Hochul's administration is loosening requirements like English language proficiency, no, I better take a class, education, qualifications, and certification for as many as 4,000 jobs in state government. And that's just an update from yesterday. Also, to kind of piggyback onto that, we had mentioned that with border security, Democrats have now seen what they believe to be an opening to run on being tougher on the border, because they're saying that Republicans aren't caving, if you will, to their demands in this border bill. So it's interesting. Now they're trying to run on it, but they still have to be careful. So you have Representative Jared Moskowitz from Florida, Democrat from Florida, said the speaker said no because Donald Trump said no. The speaker is Donald Trump's no boy on this subject. Look, I'll give Republicans credit for a second. They have been highlighting the border for a long time. And we were late to the start addressing it, meaning Democrats were late to the start addressing it. But now that we want to address it, now that we want to lower the amount of fentanyl coming in, now that we want to deal with undocumented folks, now that we want to deal with supposed terrorists potentially coming into the country, now the Republicans, controlled by one man, are saying no, no, no. I mean, I know what he's trying to do here and spin it, but now, doesn't that fall on the ear really roughly to you? Now that we want to deal with undocumented folks, now that we want to deal with supposed terrorists potentially coming into the country, now that we want to lower the amount of fentanyl coming in, weren't those things that should have always been a pretty top priority? Or is it now because polling shows that that's voters' number one concern, is border security or illegal immigration? Is that why now, to use his term, now? When was there a time when you did not want to lower the amount of fentanyl coming? That would be my question, the follow-up question there. Now you do. You said now. So you're saying since the scourge of fentanyl crossing our border, that wasn't an issue until right now, and now the Republicans have to cave to the demands that you set forth. That's an interesting kind of look inside politics, isn't it? But of course, there would be no follow-up asking that question. But I'm sure Mr. Moskowitz felt that was a brilliant response, saying, well, now we want to do it. Okay, if that's the way we're going to have it. We've got some comments when we come back. I see a lot of people commenting, so make sure that you stay with us. We'll be right back. Well, frankly speaking, here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Isn't your wellness important? Don't you want more energy? Now's the best time to make every day better and relieve those achy muscles and pains than with the Hesselson's Hot Tub. Hesselson's has hot tubs in stock and available for immediate delivery with unbelievable savings. Hesselson's offers 0% interest-free financing for up to 5 full years. Hesselson's carries the only hot tub brand in the industry with the exclusive freshwater salt system that is eco-friendly and easy to use and only enhances your hot tubbing experience. Come in today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselson's hot tub. And remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer.
How do I know if I have a case?
Call 844-292-6222 and consult with one of our attorneys to find out if the products you used are part of the lawsuit. Your eligibility will also depend on how often you use these hair products and your specific cancer diagnosis. If you regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. Call 844-292-6222.
How much will it cost to talk to an attorney?
There is no fee unless we win your case. Call 844-292-6222 for your free case review.
If you're on supplemental oxygen, heavy and awkward tanks are a burden. Now you can leave home and leave the tanks behind with Inogen One, the portable oxygen concentrator you can take almost anywhere.
With this little device, now I'm able to do the things that I've always loved. I just press the button here, and there's my oxygen.
The Inogen One is so small and light, you're free to leave the house without the hassles of an oxygen tank.
I could play golf again. I could go grocery shopping. I'm free again.
With the Inogen, I can handle my own oxygen. I can carry my own oxygen. I go anywhere with this. Look how small it is.
And right now, you can try an Inogen One for 30 days completely risk-free. Give us a call right now. If you qualify, we'll send you an Inogen system to use for 30 days completely risk-free. Your insurance may even cover your new Inogen One system.
If you're on oxygen, you need to be using an Inogen.
Call 1-800-929-7290. Again, that's 1-800-929-7290.
Broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. This is Frankly Speaking. I'm Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We do have another break coming up shortly. I'm kind of in the tangent mood this morning, as you can tell. But I did receive some comments from viewers. First up, as an occupation, police officers have an incredibly potentially dangerous job. Where is OSHA on their safety? Equal protection under the law for the law keepers is kind of a gray area. They should be treated like the noble soldiers that they are. Thank you very much. Next we have a comment. The Hochul Democrat plan is legalize marijuana and keep voters high and happy. Reduce school funding because smart voters might not vote Democrat. Bail reform because incarcerated voters can't vote. Close prisons, too many prisoners, too many incarcerated voters. And prosecute the party's competition. Prisons are good if they are holding Republicans. Thank you, Ken. Keep those messages coming in. You see the number on the bottom of your screen if you're new to the program. Let me see. How am I doing? Okay, I do have to take a break, but I want to just mention a couple quick things before we do go to that break. A couple of public service announcements. If you are a part of a charitable group or you have an event coming up, a fundraising, please let me know. That's why we love having so many guests on this program from various walks of life. And that's why we had Stu Samus as well as Buddy Cutler in last week, because tonight is the Rotary Club of Corning Groundhog Day Pancake Supper. It's tonight from 4 to 7 at the American Legion here in Corning, so don't forget about that. Also, I know you probably see the promo by now, and I mentioned it on Monday's show, but I wanted to mention it as well right now. Would you like to wish your significant other a special Valentine's to be broadcast on Big Fox? You remember the Christmas greetings that we had, or the holiday greetings. They were a lot of fun. I really liked them, so we have decided to make a Valentine tradition as well. Stop by the studio right here, 33 East Market Street, on February 5th, 6th, or 7th, so that's next week, from noon to 2, to record your heartfelt message for that special someone. Then, the week of Valentine's Day, we'll be broadcasting those messages. Now, if maybe you're a camera-shy individual, but you'd still like to pass along a message, just text me on the screen there, and I won't think it's for me, don't worry. Put your name in it. Text it to me or leave me a voicemail, and what we'll do is we'll put it up on one of the commercials as a text. Maybe have someone else read it, something like that. So that'll be kind of a neat idea. I hope that everybody will do that and then tune in the week of Valentine to watch those greetings. Okay, and one last announcement, which I'll try to remind you because we have time on it, but I will try to remind you as it, not as it nears, it's going on now, but as the deadline approaches, our friends in Steuben County, it is time for the nominating process for the Hall of Fame. They're now being accepted until March 31st. You see the guidelines there up on your screen. And they mention our friend, to Frankly Speaking, who was inducted just a few years ago, Dwayne Eddy. And so many have been inducted, and it's a really neat organization. Since 1976, more than 600 people have been nominated, with 160 individuals inducted into the Steuben County Hall of Fame. And fourth grade students also will be invited to nominate local heroes by the March 31st deadline. Submission forms are available on the historian's website. You see it right there, via email or in person at the historian's office in the Maggie House, 1 Cohocton Street in Bath. All right, there you go. Just wanted to mention that to you as well, if there's anybody you would like to nominate. All right, we got to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Attention, if you were a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and now have uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call now to see if you qualify. There's no fee unless we win your case.
Tired of a pan that always sticks? It's so scratched and worn, you can't cook in it.
Hi, Chef Daniel Green here with my new hammered pans from Gotham Steel. This complete 9-piece set is guaranteed to beautify your kitchen like never before. Hammered pans are ultra non-stick, and they're even oven safe up to 500 degrees. So bake homemade chicken pot pie or this whole chicken dinner. Use metal beaters straight in the pan for a gourmet souffle that slips right out. Plus the entire set is dishwasher safe and PFOA free.
Get the full 9-piece Gotham Steel hammered set for just 5 payments of $49.99, and we'll even ship it to you free. But order now and we'll drop 1 payment. That's just 4 payments of $49.99. Plus, we'll include this free steamer and strainer, and our 5-piece bakeware set with every pan you'll ever need to make delicious breads, cakes, and desserts. That's a huge 15-piece set with free shipping. Call or click now.
Call 1-800-608-1538 or go to buyhammered.com.
something with a diamond in it.
Diamondback rattlesnake.
It's in the name. Name a low-calorie food you might make your edible underwear out of.
Salmon.
Watch it weeknights. Share it the next day.
Wild caught Norwegian teriyaki.
Share in the fun. Weeknights on Family Feud.
7 and 7:30 on Big
Again, thank you for joining us on Frankly Speaking this morning. I'm your host, Frank Aiken, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Wait till you see this headline. Perhaps you're familiar with it, but if not, it's a pretty shocking headline. Democrat Representatives Rashida Tlaib and Cori Bush vote no on a bill banning Hamas terrorists from the United States. Giving you a little bit more background here, the No Immigration Benefits for Hamas Terrorist Act, introduced by Representative Tom McClintock from California, would deem any members of Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, the Palestine Liberation Organization, or other individuals who participate in or facilitated the October 7, 2023 terrorist attack on the Jewish state ineligible to enter the United States even if seeking asylum. The bill passed the lower chamber 422 to 2 with, so you've got the two, which are Rashida Tlaib and Cori Bush, and then you've got Representative Delia Ramirez from Illinois voting present, and 6 members not voting. Now, what's the excuse? Tlaib, an outspoken critic of Israel's war against Hamas and the Biden administration's support for it, argued that the bill is, quote, redundant and will be used by Republicans to, quote, incite hate. It's just another GOP messaging bill being used to incite anti-Arab, anti-Palestinian, and anti-Muslim hatred that makes communities like ours unsafe. All right. Hey, by the way, did you see what Axios is reporting? That the State Department is reviewing options for a possible recognition of the Palestinian state. While U.S. officials say there has been no policy change, the fact that the State Department is even considering such options signals a shift in thinking within the Biden administration on possible Palestinian statehood recognition, which is highly sensitive both internationally and domestically. Some inside the Biden administration are now thinking recognition of a Palestinian state should possibly be the first step in negotiations to resolve the Israel-Palestinian conflict instead of the last, a senior U.S. official said on anonymity. All right. Well, I guess I'm not surprised. Because there's actually a piece by Miranda Devine at the New York Post that says Joe Biden's dangerous, cynical Iran concessions prove his concern is 2024 re-election, not America's safety. And we know that he's having some issues with his support for Israel. I know this is Jordan, but bear with me here. We're jumping around a little bit because it's the same vein that many Democrats are signaling their anger at Joe Biden for his support of Israel, and that worries him with polls. Now, I know there's new polls out, and we might get to it, though we are running late, that's suggesting that he's now up 6 points over Trump. Trump was beating him, last week, and now it's up 6 points. This is polling season. This is election season. No surprise there and how the media controls the narrative. But when he saw internal polling, when he saw Democrats reaching out and saying they couldn't support him because of his support for Israel, it doesn't come as a surprise. He's starting to change his tact on many things, and he was saying so behind closed doors, if you recall. And the same goes with this piece by Miranda Devine, that it was not about America's safety, but his concessions to Iran was really, according to her, the reason for Biden's dangerous Iran concessions was utterly cynical. It was driven by the domestic political calculus that he needed to lower the skyrocketing price of oil by increasing the worldwide supply, or voters would desert him. In other words, the president would rather we buy oil from terrorists who use the money to attack America and its allies than increase domestic oil production and risk upsetting his party's climate wing, global warming wing. He also lifted sanctions on the communists in Venezuela. You can find that full piece by Miranda Devine at the New York Post. Let's take another short break. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox.
Our water's better tasting. It's better for the planet. That's great, sir. Can I take your order?
Oh, number 3.
At Culligan, we get that most people don't think about water like we do, and that's okay. You see, when we install our drinking water and softening systems, we're thinking about filtering contaminants and the minerals that make water hard. So you can just think about softer, cleaner, better tasting water. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
Attention, if you were a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and now have uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call now to see if you qualify. There's no fee unless we win your case.
Shell Missy face off in
Why can't we watch DuckTales? Because we don't learn anything.
Book Smarts versus Street Smarts.
Is it working? Are you feeling motivated? Very.
It's the battle of twins.
Life is so confusing. I always hoped it would be easier for me when I grew up. It's gonna be all right. You were faking. Bazinga.
Young Sheldon.
Weeknights at 6:30 on Big Fox.
We are back with Frankly Speaking. I know I have to hit you with another break coming up in just a second, but I had to mention this. I never thought, or I guess I was shocked to see this headline on CNN this morning, though it is an opinion piece. On Iran, Biden should follow Trump's lead, coming from CNN, but again, an opinion piece. The idea here is that it's clear that President Joe Biden desperately wishes to avoid a wider war in the region. However, the regime in Iran has a vote, and it doesn't appear to be backing down. America must be prepared to use force directly against Iran, including its expanding nuclear weapons program. The fear of sparking wider conflict is understandable in the wake of failures in our war on terror. But declining to respond to aggression by proxy is often seen by Tehran as an invitation to escalate. And that is exactly why the regime has done what they have done since October. As retired General Wesley Clark told CNN, if you do this strike the right way, the Iranians will understand they can't afford to escalate into war. They can't stand up to the United States, especially given the domestic opposition the regime faces. The government in Iran is on very shaky grounds, and it's in no position to have a war with the United States. He continued, suggesting that it's time to go to the source of the trouble in Iran. Just a headline that kind of shocked me this morning. We're going to wrap things up. A couple quick things when we come back, so stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
This right here is confidence in a bottle.
It makes me feel so much more confident than I've ever felt.
They are some of the hottest videos on social media. Those videos claiming to instantly get rid of bags under your eyes. Annette Figueroa is here to tell us why she says this one is for real.
This one is for real, and I'm so excited. We even have a video, and all he uses is a small amount on a clean, dry face. And what it does is it tightens and lifts the appearance of bags underneath your eyes. And I did this to my father. We were at home, so we applied it to his under eye bags, and let me tell you, we were so excited. In under 10 minutes, they visibly disappeared from view, and now it is literally part of both of our daily routines. And not only does it work on the bags, it works on the appearance of crow's feet, fine lines, and wrinkles.
At our $14.95 price, it's the best way to try Plexiderm and see it work after your first application. Your solution is at plexidermtrial.com or call the number on your screen.
It's a season of Sherry.
Having a good time has always been my #1 goal. I tend to get crazy. At my age, I should not be jumping up and down like that. And if you don't know what I mean, ask your mama. The young ones, y'all like, we don't know what you're talking about. But I promise you, in 30 years, you will.
It's the best time in daytime.
Weekdays at 2 p.m. on Big Fox.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Hakem, and we are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on Marcus Street in Corning. So as I quickly mentioned, according to a new Quinnipiac University survey, it shows that Biden is leading Trump 50% to 44%. after the same poll had the incumbent edging out his rival 47-46. So in December, it's essentially a tie, 47-46, Biden by 1. Now it is 50-44. What happened since December? I'm not sure. Biden's strong numbers are driven by the support of 58% of female voters, 52% of independents, and 62% of voters with college degrees. Quinnipiac polling analyst Tim Malloy said the gender demographic tells a story to keep an eye on. Propelled by female voters in the just past few weeks, the head-to-head tie with Trump morphs into a modest lead for Biden. I guess I'm confused. Where were the female voters before the past few weeks? I find this time of the year, and it is a little, not early for this, but when we start to see polls that are wildly different, that all of a sudden the media tries to paint a narrative with, especially now as, let's face it, we start talking about fueled by female voters. Nikki Haley is still in the race. Is this another sign to encourage Nikki Haley to continue on? This is all speculation. This is all mind games that you can more than happily, comment on the bottom of your screen, that phone number. Again, you've heard me say it a million times. I don't trust polls. I do think it's interesting to see a poll like this so that we can prepare in a way for what the narrative will be from the mainstream media. By contrast, Trump wins male votes with 53% support in that demographic, but only captures 40% of independents. Now, Biden still leads, this I find interesting too, if third-party candidates are introduced in the race. In a 5-person contest, Biden receives 39%, Trump receives 37%. Independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. gets 14%, Cornel West 3%, and Jill Stein gets 2%. Now, this is what I mean. Trump's Republican rival, Nikki Haley, would defeat Biden in a hypothetical head-to-head race by 5 percentage points in the popular vote, 47-42, but loses with the inclusion of third-party candidates, according to the survey. So we'll see a lot more of these polls, a lot more confusing numbers as we near November. Yes, we were right on yesterday's program where FBI Director Christopher Wray painted a very scary picture of the looming threat of China hackers on the United States. Their targeting of infrastructure, the electric grid, even sewage operations. But we are out of time for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Thank you to Doug Harrington telling us about Cabaret. That is in Owego. You can find out more at tiahwaga.com, and it's from February 2nd to the 18th. On tomorrow's program, Assemblyman Phil Palmisano, so make sure that you join us, and thank you for all the comments this morning and all the back and forth. I really appreciate it. We'll be back starting at 7 a.m. for Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV. Big Fox. Have a great day, everyone.
Was your premature baby fed a cow's milk baby formula such as Similac or Enfamil? If so, your child may be entitled to significant financial compensation. Evidence shows that cow's milk formulas increase the risk of NEC in premature babies, causing severe harm and even death. If your child was born premature and suffers from NEC, intestinal perforations, sepsis, cerebral palsy, or died as a result, you may have the right to sue for significant financial compensation. Call now for a free case review.